Between 1950 and 1970, American kitchens were candy factories where grandmothers created homemade sweets without ever turning on the oven. These Depression-era recipes produced incredible confections using just a few simple ingredients, costing less than $1 per batch. Home cooks made potato-based candies, bourbon-spiked balls, and coconut delights that filled cookie tins at every holiday gathering. By the 1980s, store-bought candy and convenience culture replaced these homemade traditions. These are 30 forgotten no-bake candies Grandma made that no one makes anymore. Potato candy stands as one of the most unusual yet beloved Depression-era treats that American grandmothers created from sheer necessity and ingenuity. This seemingly impossible confection transforms a humble mashed potato into sweet, fudge-like candy rolled with creamy peanut butter, proving that desperate times sparked incredible creativity in home kitchens across the nation. The magic begins with just one small cooked potato, mashed until completely smooth without any lumps. While still warm, you'd work in powdered sugar, cup by cup, until the mixture transformed from savory to sweet and achieved a dough-like consistency. The potato completely disappears in flavor, leaving behind only its binding properties that hold the sugar together, without eggs, butter, or cream. Once the dough is formed, you'd roll it thin on a surface dusted with more powdered sugar, spread it generously with peanut butter, then roll it up like a jelly roll. After chilling, you'd slice it into pinwheel spirals that revealed the beautiful swirl of white candy and tan peanut butter. At just 60 cents per batch in the 1960s, it fed families affordably during hard times. Needhams represent Maine's most cherished regional candy, a chocolate-covered bar that became a staple throughout New England during the 1950s and 60s. Named after Reverend George C. Needham, who inspired their creation in Portland during the 1870s, these distinctive treats featured a creamy coconut potato center that set them apart from any other candy. The filling combined mashed potato with shredded coconut and powdered sugar, creating a moist, fudge-like texture that held together perfectly without cream or condensed milk. Unlike simple potato candy, Needhams required the potato-coconut mixture to be shaped into small logs or rectangles, then completely enveloped in dark chocolate coating. The chocolate shell provided a bitter contrast to the sweet, tropical-flavored interior, while the potato acted as an invisible binder that kept the coconut from falling apart. Maine bakeries and candy shops still make limited batches today, but the homemade tradition has nearly vanished outside New England families who guard their grandmother's recipes. At 75 cents for 2 dozen bars, they were Maine's answer to expensive commercial candy.
Many of you have been asking where to find these recipes. We've gathered hundreds of them from the Depression era through the 1970s in our cookbook, Grandma's Kitchen. Complete instructions, pro tips in 10 chapters. Link is in the description below. Now, let's get back to the video.
Buckeyes earned their name from their striking resemblance to the nut of Ohio's state tree, becoming the Buckeye State's most iconic homemade candy throughout the mid-20th century. These peanut butter balls, dipped partially in chocolate, left a circle of tan peanut butter visible at the top, mimicking the distinctive appearance of actual Buckeye nuts perfectly. Grandmothers across Ohio made them by the hundreds during football season and holidays, creating a creamy peanut butter filling mixed with powdered sugar and butter that formed into firm balls. After chilling, each ball received a toothpick insertion for easier handling, then got dunked 3/4 deep into melted chocolate, leaving that signature circle exposed. The contrast between smooth, sweet peanut butter and rich chocolate coating made them irresistible, while their no-bake preparation meant anyone could master them without fancy equipment or candy thermometers. Ohio State football fans considered them essential game day treats, and no Christmas cookie tray felt complete without a dozen Buckeyes arranged prominently. At 85 cents for 3 dozen candies, They delivered maximum impact for minimal investment. Tiger butter emerged during the 1970s as a striking candy bark that combined swirled white chocolate and peanut butter with dramatic chocolate streaks, creating patterns that resembled tiger stripes. This no-bake confection became a holiday favorite because its impressive appearance suggested far more effort than the simple preparation actually required. The process started by melting white chocolate chips with creamy peanut butter until smooth and completely combined, creating a pale tan base with rich flavor. This mixture spread into a foil-lined pan. Then melted semi-sweet chocolate got drizzled over the top in random patterns. Using a knife or toothpick, you'd swirl the dark chocolate through the peanut butter layer, creating those signature tiger stripe patterns that made each piece unique. After refrigerating until firm, the bark broke into irregular shards that looked like expensive candy shop creations. The combination of sweet white chocolate, salty peanut butter, and bitter dark chocolate created a complex flavor that kept people reaching for more pieces. At 95 cents per batch, making 2 pounds of candy, Tiger butter delivered impressive results that belied its bargain price. Bourbon balls represented Southern hospitality in candy form, becoming the sophisticated grown-up treat that appeared at every Kentucky Derby party and adult holiday gathering throughout the 1950s and 60s. These no-bake confections combined crushed vanilla wafer cookies with chopped pecans, cocoa powder, and a generous splash of quality bourbon, creating boozy little spheres that packed surprising punch beneath their powdered sugar coating. The preparation required crushing vanilla wafers into fine crumbs, mixing them with finely chopped pecans, cocoa, corn syrup, and enough bourbon to create a moldable dough. After rolling the mixture into 1-inch balls, they'd be dusted liberally with powdered sugar and stored in airtight containers where the flavors melded and intensified over several days. The alcohol never cooked off, making these decidedly adults-only treats that delivered a pleasant warming sensation with each bite. Southern grandmothers tucked them into decorative tins as gifts for neighbors and friends, knowing the bourbon content made them improper for children but perfect for appreciative adults. At 90 cents for 4 dozen balls, they brought affordable elegance to any occasion. These forgotten candies proved that our grandmothers were candy-making geniuses, turning simple pantry staples into treasures without ever heating an oven. From Maine's potato coconut needums to Kentucky's bourbon-laced sophistication, each recipe tells a story of American ingenuity and thrift. Let's continue discovering more lost classics that deserve revival. Rum balls served as bourbon balls' Caribbean cousin, offering the same no-bake convenience with tropical rum flavor that transported taste buds to warmer climates during cold winter months. These sophisticated confections became popular during the 1960s, when tiki culture and tropical drinks dominated American entertainment, bringing island flair to Midwest living rooms and holiday parties. The preparation mirrored bourbon balls, but substituted dark rum for bourbon, creating deeper molasses notes that paired beautifully with chocolate. Crushed vanilla wafers or chocolate cookies, combined with finely chopped walnuts or almonds, cocoa powder, honey or corn syrup, and generous amounts of aged rum formed into a cohesive mixture that rolled easily into perfect spheres. Some grandmothers rolled them in cocoa powder, while others preferred shredded coconut, chocolate sprinkles, or finely chopped nuts for varied coatings. The rum-soaked cookies softened over time, creating a truffle-like texture that melted on the tongue while delivering that unmistakable rum warmth. Like bourbon balls, these required several days of aging for flavors to fully develop and mellow. At 90 cents per batch, they brought vacation vibes to Depression-era budgets. Coconut ice arrived in American kitchens via British immigrants, becoming a beloved no-bake candy throughout the 1950s that featured two distinct layers of pink and white coconut confection. This simple yet elegant treat required no cooking whatsoever, making it perfect for children to help prepare while teaching them basic candy-making principles without dangerous hot sugar. The white layer combined sweetened condensed milk with powdered sugar and shredded coconut, mixed until it achieved a thick, moldable consistency that pressed firmly into a square pan. The pink layer used identical ingredients with just a few drops of red food coloring added, creating that signature two-tone appearance when pressed on top of the white layer. After chilling for several hours until firm, the candy cut into neat squares that revealed the sharp division between pink and white layers. The texture fell somewhere between fudge and marzipan, with coconut providing pleasant chewiness throughout. British grandmothers called it ice because its cool, smooth texture resembled frozen treats despite never seeing a freezer. At 75 cents for 3 dozen pieces, it brought Victorian elegance to American candy dishes. Cream cheese mints became the quintessential wedding and baby shower candy throughout the 1960s and 70s, appearing in pastel colors that matched party decorations and melting instantly on the tongue with delicate peppermint flavor. These soft, pillowy mints required just 3 core ingredients and could be shaped into flowers, leaves, or simple discs, using rubber candy molds that every hostess kept in her kitchen. The preparation started with softened cream cheese, whipped with butter until fluffy and smooth. Then powdered sugar added gradually until the mixture became stiff enough to hold shape. Peppermint extract provided flavor, while food coloring created the desired pastel shades: pink for baby girls, blue for boys, mint green for spring weddings, and lavender for bridal showers. The mixture pressed into small rubber molds, then popped out onto wax paper to dry slightly, creating perfectly uniform candies with intricate designs. The cream cheese provided richness that distinguished these from hard peppermint candies, while their soft texture made them accessible even for guests with dental issues. At 65 cents for 8 dozen tiny mints, they elevated any celebration affordably. Coconut bonbons represented pure tropical indulgence, featuring sweet coconut centers rolled into perfect spheres and completely enrobed in chocolate coating that cracked satisfyingly with each bite. These homemade versions rivaled commercial Mounds bars, but cost a fraction of the price, while allowing customization of sweetness and coconut texture. The centers combined sweetened shredded coconut with condensed milk and powdered sugar, mixing until the mixture held together firmly enough to roll into uniform balls without falling apart. After chilling the coconut balls until very firm, they received a complete chocolate bath using melted chocolate chips or candy coating, then returned to the refrigerator to set the coating hard. The result was a candy with distinct layers, crispy chocolate shell giving way to intensely coconut-flavored filling that was simultaneously chewy and creamy. Some grandmothers added almond extract to the centers, creating homemade almond joy variations, while others kept them pure coconut for Mounds-style simplicity. The chocolate coating is sealed in moisture, keeping the coconut centers fresh for weeks when stored in airtight containers. At 75 cents for 2 dozen bonbons, they satisfied tropical cravings year-round. Date balls brought Middle Eastern flavors to American candy dishes, combining chopped dates with pecans and Rice Krispies cereal for unexpected textural contrast that made them irresistibly addictive. These no-bake treats became Christmas staples throughout the Southwest, where date palms grew abundantly, and fresh dates cost pennies at roadside stands. The preparation required chopping sticky dates into small pieces, then mixing them with melted butter, sugar, and a beaten egg in a skillet over very low heat just until the mixture came together and thickened slightly. Rice Krispies cereal folded into the warm date mixture provided a crucial crunch, while chopped pecans added buttery richness and additional texture. The warm mixture rolled into walnut-sized balls while still pliable. Then each ball received a generous coating of shredded coconut or powdered sugar for a finished appearance. The dates provided natural sweetness and a caramel-like flavor that intensified as the balls aged, while the Rice Krispies maintained their crunch for days. These traveled well, making them perfect for shipping to distant relatives during holidays. At 80 cents for 3 dozen balls, they showcased expensive-tasting dates affordably. These first 10 forgotten candies prove that Depression-era grandmothers were kitchen magicians, transforming potatoes into sweets and creating tropical delights without ovens. From Ohio's Buckeyes to Britain's coconut ice, each recipe represents lost American candy-making traditions. Let's continue uncovering more no-bake treasures that deserve a place in modern kitchens. Sugar plums danced through American holiday traditions long before the Nutcracker made them famous, existing as actual candy rather than mythical Christmas Eve visions. These no-bake confections combined dried fruits with nuts and warm spices, rolled into small spheres that resembled plums in size and shape, creating concentrated bursts of holiday flavor in every bite. The preparation began with grinding dried fruits through a food mill or chopping them extremely fine by hand. Dried figs, dates, apricots, and prunes formed the traditional base, their natural sugars providing sweetness without adding refined sugar. Almonds, walnuts, or pecans joined the fruit mixture, chopped fine enough to bind together but coarse enough to provide textural interest. Ground cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, and a hint of orange zest added warming spice notes that screamed Christmas. The mixture came together through patient kneading, the natural stickiness of dried fruit acting as glue that held everything together without eggs, butter, or corn syrup. Small portions rolled into marble-sized balls between buttered palms. Then each ball received a coating of granulated sugar that sparkled like fresh snow. Some grandmothers preferred rolling them in finely chopped nuts instead, creating a completely different appearance and texture. Sugar plums improved with age as flavors melded together over several days of storage in airtight tins. The sugar coating absorbed slight moisture from the fruit, creating a thin, crystallized shell that provided a pleasant crunch before giving way to the chewy, intensely flavored interior. Victorian-era families tucked them into children's Christmas stockings as special treats, continuing a tradition that stretched back centuries. At 85 cents for 5 dozen tiny plums, they brought medieval European elegance to American holiday celebrations, proving that the simplest ingredients could create the most memorable confections when combined with patience and care. Peanut butter pinwheels took the basic potato candy concept and elevated it into stunning visual art, creating spiral slices that looked like they required professional pastry skills but came together with just a rolling pin and patience. These beautiful candies became showstoppers on dessert trays, their distinctive appearance making them conversation starters at every gathering. The base started identically to potato candy. One small mashed potato worked with powdered sugar until it transformed into sweet, pliable dough. But instead of rolling the dough thin and spreading peanut butter immediately, this version required rolling it into a perfect rectangle on a surface heavily dusted with powdered sugar, achieving uniform thickness throughout. The peanut butter layer spread smoothly across the entire surface, edge to edge, using creamy peanut butter at room temperature for easiest spreading. The rolling technique determined success or failure. Starting from the long edge, you'd carefully roll the dough into a tight cylinder, keeping even pressure throughout to prevent air pockets or uneven spirals. Some grandmothers chilled the log briefly before slicing to ensure clean cuts, while others sliced immediately with a sharp knife dipped in hot water between each cut. Each slice revealed a perfect pinwheel pattern, alternating spirals of white candy and tan peanut butter that looked almost too pretty to eat. The candy had a unique texture, slightly grainy from the powdered sugar, but melting smoothly on the tongue, while the peanut butter provided creamy contrast and protein richness. These traveled exceptionally well, making them perfect for sending to college students or military personnel overseas. The potatoes' binding properties kept them fresh for weeks without refrigeration, an unexpected benefit that made them practical as well as beautiful. At 65 cents per batch, making 4 dozen pinwheels, they delivered maximum visual impact for minimal investment, proving that presentation mattered even during economically challenging times. Peanut clusters emerged as the ultimate expression of candy-making simplicity, requiring just 2 ingredients and 5 minutes to create professional-looking confections that rivaled anything sold in expensive candy shops. These humble treats became pantry staples throughout the 1960s and 70s, appearing at every potluck, bake sale, and holiday gathering across America. The magic happened when melted chocolate chips met salted peanuts in perfect proportion. The chocolate, either milk, dark, or a combination of both, melted slowly in a double boiler or carefully in the microwave, stirred until completely smooth and glossy. Dry roasted peanuts with salt folded into the melted chocolate, each nut becoming completely coated in the rich chocolate mixture. Using 2 spoons, you'd drop tablespoon-sized portions onto wax paper, creating irregular mounds that resembled natural rock formations rather than uniform factory candies. This rustic appearance became part of their charm, each cluster unique in shape and size. The peanuts distributed randomly throughout, some pieces showing more nuts while others featured more chocolate. Microwave fudge revolutionized candy making when microwave ovens became common household appliances during the 1970s, eliminating the candy thermometer anxiety that prevented many home cooks from attempting traditional fudge. This foolproof recipe delivered smooth, creamy results every single time, making fudge accessible to absolute beginners and impatient children who couldn't wait hours for stovetop versions. The 3-ingredient formula seemed almost too simple to work: chocolate chips, sweetened condensed milk, and vanilla extract combined in a microwave-safe bowl, nothing more. The microwave heated everything in 1-minute intervals with stirring between each burst, gradually melting the chocolate chips into the condensed milk until the mixture became completely smooth and glossy. The vanilla stirred in at the end provided aromatic depth that distinguished homemade fudge from commercial versions. The mixture poured into a foil-lined pan, spread evenly with a spatula, then refrigerated for just 2 hours until firm enough to cut into perfect squares. The texture fell somewhere between traditional fudge and ganache, smooth, creamy, and dense, without being grainy or dry. It sliced cleanly with a sharp knife, creating uniform pieces that looked professionally made despite the casual preparation. Variations emerged quickly as creative cooks experimented with the basic formula. Peanut butter stirred in created peanut butter fudge, while crushed peppermint candies made holiday mint fudge. Chopped nuts, dried fruit, or mini marshmallows folded in just before pouring added textural interest and visual appeal. Cherry balls combined the nostalgia of maraschino cherries with coconut and chocolate, creating tri-flavored confections that tasted like vacation despite their humble ingredients. These colorful candies became baby shower and Valentine's Day favorites throughout the 1960s, their pink-studded appearance making them instantly festive and feminine without requiring elaborate decoration. The preparation began by draining maraschino cherries thoroughly and chopping them into small pieces, reserving some whole cherries for centers if desired. The cherry pieces mixed with sweetened condensed milk, shredded coconut, powdered sugar, and chopped pecans or walnuts, creating a thick, sticky mixture that held together beautifully when rolled into balls. Some grandmothers pressed a whole cherry into the center of each ball before coating, creating a surprise filling that delighted children. The coconut cherry mixture chilled until firm enough to handle, then rolled into uniform spheres about the size of large marbles. Each ball received a complete coating of melted chocolate, either by dipping or rolling in a bowl of melted chips, then returned to wax paper to harden. The bright pink cherry pieces showed through the chocolate, in places where the coating wasn't perfectly thick, adding visual interest and hinting at the fruit flavor within. The combination of sweet cherries, tropical coconut, crunchy nuts, and rich chocolate created complex flavor that kept taste buds engaged. From medieval sugar plums to modern microwave fudge, these no-bake candies span centuries of American ingenuity. Each recipe solved problems, making candy without thermometers, creating beauty without professional tools, delivering flavor without expensive ingredients. Our grandmothers knew that great candy required creativity, not complexity. Let's discover 5 more forgotten treasures. Buttercreams represented the pinnacle of homemade candy sophistication, featuring smooth fondant centers flavored with various extracts and completely enrobed in chocolate coating that cracked with professional-sounding snap. These elegant confections appeared in candy shop windows throughout the early 20th century, but grandmothers discovered they could replicate them at home for a fraction of the retail price. The centers started with softened butter creamed with powdered sugar until light and fluffy, creating a base with texture similar to buttercream frosting but firmer and more substantial. Vanilla extract provided the classic flavor, but creative candy makers branched into maple, almond, peppermint, rum, or fruit extracts, creating entire assortments from one basic recipe. Food coloring helped identify flavors: pink for strawberry, green for mint, yellow for lemon, making selection easier when serving variety. The mixture chilled until firm enough to roll into small balls or shape into rectangles, ovals, or other forms using candy molds. This shaping stage required cold hands and patience, as the butter content made the mixture soften quickly at room temperature. Once shaped, the centers returned to the refrigerator to firm completely before receiving their chocolate coating. The chocolate dipping process separated casual candy makers from serious practitioners. Each center balanced on a dipping fork, submerged completely in tempered chocolate, then lifted out with a quick wrist flick that removed excess coating. Church windows earned their whimsical name from the stunning appearance created when colorful mini marshmallows suspended in chocolate rolled in coconut, creating cross-sections that resembled stained glass windows when sliced. This no-bake candy became a 1960s sensation, appearing at church potlucks and holiday gatherings where its unique appearance always generated questions and requests for the recipe. The preparation began by melting chocolate chips with butter until smooth and completely combined, creating a chocolate mixture with enough butter content to remain pliable even when chilled. Colorful mini marshmallows, the kind that came in pastel pink, yellow, green, and white, folded into the melted chocolate while still warm, coating each marshmallow in a thin layer of chocolate without melting them completely. Speed mattered here, as overheating would cause the marshmallows to dissolve rather than maintain their shape. The chocolate marshmallow mixture spread onto wax paper or plastic wrap, then rolled into a tight log about 2 inches in diameter. The log rolled in shredded coconut until completely coated, creating a white exterior that contrasted beautifully with the dark chocolate interior. After chilling for several hours until very firm, the log sliced into half-inch rounds that revealed the stained glass pattern. Martha Washington Balls honored America's First Lady with a candy worthy of her refined taste and Southern heritage, combining coconut, pecans, and condensed milk into luxurious confections that rivaled the finest commercial chocolates. These became synonymous with Southern hospitality throughout the mid-20th century, appearing at every important gathering from weddings to funerals as symbols of care and effort. The centers required softened butter, creamed with powdered sugar, until fluffy, then sweetened condensed milk, shredded coconut, and finely chopped pecans, folded in until the mixture achieved a consistency firm enough to shape. The high proportion of coconut and nuts distinguished these from simple buttercreams, creating more complex flavor and interesting texture. Maraschino cherry pieces added color and fruity notes in some family recipes, while others kept them pure coconut pecan for classic simplicity. After chilling until very firm, the mixture rolled into walnut-sized balls that required careful handling to maintain round shapes, despite the chunky ingredients. Each ball returned to the refrigerator to harden completely before receiving its chocolate coating, a crucial step that prevented the soft centers from falling apart during dipping. The chocolate coating process required patience and skill. Each ball balanced on a dipping fork, submerged in melted chocolate, then lifted out and tapped gently to remove excess coating. The finished candies hardened on wax paper, developing that characteristic glossy appearance and satisfying snap when bitten. The name's origin remains disputed. Some claim Martha Washington herself made similar candies at Mount Vernon, while others suggest the name simply honored her refined taste. Regardless of historical accuracy, the association with America's First Lady elevated these candies to special occasion status. At 85 cents for 3 dozen balls, they brought plantation-era elegance to modern candy dishes, proving that Southern traditions valued quality ingredients and careful preparation over expensive shortcuts. Peanut Butter Rice Krispie Balls merged two childhood favorites, peanut butter and Rice Krispies cereal, into addictive no-bake candies that disappeared faster than any other treat at school bake sales and Scout Troop fundraisers. These economical confections became 1970s staples because they required no cooking whatsoever, making them safe for children to prepare independently while learning basic kitchen skills. The preparation couldn't have been simpler. Creamy peanut butter mixed with honey or corn syrup and powdered sugar until smooth and thick, then Rice Krispies cereal folded in until evenly distributed. The cereal provided crucial textural contrast to the smooth peanut butter base, creating a satisfying crunch in every bite. Some recipes included a handful of mini chocolate chips for extra sweetness, while others kept them pure peanut butter for protein-rich snacking. The mixture rolled easily into uniform balls about the size of walnuts, the natural stickiness of peanut butter and honey holding everything together without additional binding agents. Each ball could be left plain, rolled in additional Rice Krispies for extra crunch, dusted with powdered sugar for elegance, or dipped in melted chocolate for special occasions. The versatility made them adaptable to any event or preference. Unlike many candies that improved with age, these tasted best fresh when the Rice Krispies maintained maximum crunch. After a few days, the cereal absorbed moisture from the peanut butter and lost some textural appeal, though the flavor remained excellent. This encouraged making small batches frequently, rather than large batches stored long-term. Children particularly loved these because the ingredient list contained recognizable foods rather than mysterious candy-making components. Parents appreciated that peanut butter provided protein and energy, making these seem healthier than pure sugar candies despite their sweetness. White velvet coconut creams lived up to their luxurious name, delivering silky smooth coconut fudge with texture so creamy it practically dissolved on the tongue. This vintage recipe appeared in 1960s American home magazines and church cookbooks, becoming the candy that grandmothers made when they wanted to impress sophisticated guests with minimal effort. The preparation required no candy thermometer or boiling sugar, instead relying on sweetened condensed milk's natural chemistry to create fudge-like consistency. The mixture began with butter melted in a saucepan, then sweetened condensed milk, powdered sugar, and shredded coconut, stirred in until completely combined and smooth. Unlike traditional fudge that required precise temperature control, this version simply heated until the mixture came together, then removed from heat immediately. Vanilla extract stirred in at the end provided aromatic depth, while some grandmothers added almond extract for tropical complexity. The mixture is poured into a buttered square pan, spread evenly, then topped with additional flaked coconut, pressed gently into the surface for textural contrast and visual appeal. After refrigerating for several hours until firm, it cut into perfect squares that held their shape beautifully. The name white velvet described the texture perfectly, smooth, creamy, and luxurious despite humble ingredients. The coconut provided subtle tropical flavor without overwhelming sweetness, while the condensed milk created richness that made each piece feel indulgent. The texture fell somewhere between fudge and fondant, firm enough to hold shape, but soft enough to melt quickly in the mouth. These traveled well to potlucks and parties, maintaining their texture even at room temperature for several hours. The coconut's natural oils prevented them from becoming dry or crumbly, while the condensed milk kept them moist for days when stored in airtight containers. 20 forgotten candies down, 10 more to go. From southern Martha Washington balls to tropical white velvet coconut creams, these no-bake treasures showcase American candy making at its most creative and resourceful. Our grandmothers transformed pantry basics into memorable confections that cost less than $1. Let's finish strong. Peanut butter marshmallow squares emerged during the 1970s as the ultimate no-bake candy bar alternative, combining the addictive flavors of peanut butter and marshmallow into chewy, satisfying squares that rivaled any commercial confection. These became instant hits at school bake sales and church fundraisers because they looked impressive, tasted incredible, and cost almost nothing to make from common pantry ingredients. The preparation began with melting butter in a large saucepan over low heat, then stirring in peanut butter until smooth and completely combined. Butterscotch chips joined the mixture next, melting into the peanut butter base and adding caramel notes that elevated the flavor beyond simple peanut butter sweetness. This trinity of butter, peanut butter, and butterscotch created a rich, complex base that held everything together while providing intense flavor. Once the mixture melted smooth, mini marshmallows folded in while the pan was off the heat. The residual warmth softened the marshmallows slightly without melting them completely, allowing them to stick together while maintaining their pillowy texture. The marshmallows distributed throughout the mixture like sweet little clouds, creating pockets of soft contrast against the denser peanut butter base. The entire mixture pressed firmly into a buttered 9 by 13-inch pan, spreading evenly with a spatula to create uniform thickness throughout. This pressing stage required firm pressure to eliminate air pockets and ensure the squares would hold together when cut, but not so much pressure that the marshmallows compressed completely and lost their distinct texture. After just 1 hour of refrigeration, the squares firmed up enough to cut into perfect rectangles with a sharp knife. Each piece revealed the beautiful distribution of white marshmallows throughout the golden peanut butter base, creating visual appeal that made them irresistible. The texture combined chewy peanut butter with soft marshmallows and slight crunch from the butterscotch, creating complexity that kept people reaching for second and third pieces. These stored exceptionally well in airtight containers, actually improving slightly over the first day as flavors melded together. The marshmallows released a tiny amount of moisture that kept the peanut butter from becoming dry, while the butterscotch chips prevented stickiness that might have occurred with just peanut butter and marshmallows alone. Pulled butter mints represented old-fashioned candy making at its most theatrical, requiring muscle power and patience to transform simple ingredients into glossy, melt-in-your-mouth confections that rivaled professional mints. The preparation began by combining sugar, water, butter, and corn syrup in a heavy saucepan, heating slowly while stirring until the sugar dissolved completely. The mixture then cooked without stirring, the hot mixture poured onto a buttered marble slab or large platter to pull it outward, then folded it back on itself, repeating this motion hundreds of times over 15 to 20 minutes. The pulling incorporated air into the candy, transforming it from clear and glassy to opaque and satiny. The texture changed from hard and sticky to smooth and pliable. When the candy became too stiff to pull further, Christmas sugar mints brought festive elegance to holiday candy dishes with a cooked sugar syrup, granulated sugar, water, and cream of tartar. While the syrup cooked, any sugar crystals forming on the pan sides got brushed away with a wet pastry brush to prevent graininess in the finished mints. The mints hardened within minutes into smooth, flat discs about the size of quarters. They were ready for decoration. Royal icing, made from egg whites and powdered sugar, the decorated mints looked almost too beautiful to eat, resembling fine china patterns more than homemade candy. Grandmothers arranged them on silver trays at Christmas parties, and guests marveled at the artistry, while the mints dissolved instantly on their tongues with refreshing peppermint flavor that cleansed the palate after rich holiday foods. Chocolate-covered cherries represented the pinnacle of homemade candy sophistication, featuring whole maraschino cherries wrapped in sweet fondant that mysteriously liquefied after a few days, all encased in dark chocolate shells that cracked with professional snap. The process began by draining maraschino cherries thoroughly and patting them completely dry. Any residual moisture would prevent the chocolate from adhering properly. Each cherry received a stem or toothpick inserted for easier handling during the dipping process. The fondant coating came next, made from softened butter, powdered sugar, sweetened condensed milk, and a touch of almond extract that complemented the cherry flavor beautifully. Small portions of fondant wrapped around each cherry, completely encasing it in a thin layer that sealed in the fruit. This step required cold hands and quick work, because the fondant softened rapidly at room temperature. The wrapped cherries chilled until very firm before receiving their final chocolate coating, a crucial step that prevented the fondant from melting during the chocolate dipping process. The chocolate coating required tempered chocolate for professional results. Chocolate heated and cooled to specific temperatures that gave it proper snap and glossy finish. Each fondant-wrapped cherry balanced on a dipping fork, submerged completely in the tempered chocolate, then lifted out with a quick wrist motion that removed excess coating. This created the signature experience of biting through crisp chocolate, then liquid fondant, then finally the cherry itself. 3 distinct textures in one small candy. Coconut haystacks brought tropical flavor to no-bake candy making with rustic, irregular mounds that looked like tiny haystacks scattered across wax paper. These simple confections became popular during the 1960s, when coconut enjoyed a cultural moment thanks to tiki bars and tropical vacation trends, allowing Midwest families to taste the islands without leaving their kitchens. The preparation couldn't have been simpler. Melted chocolate chips combined with sweetened shredded coconut in a ratio that left the coconut lightly coated but still visible throughout. Unlike coconut bonbons, where coconut got pressed into uniform balls then dipped, haystacks embraced their irregular, natural appearance as part of their charm. The mixture dropped by spoonfuls onto wax paper created unique shapes that resembled actual haystacks, with coconut shreds sticking out at random angles. Some grandmothers used milk chocolate for sweeter, milder flavor, while others preferred semi-sweet or even dark chocolate for sophisticated bitterness that contrasted beautifully with the coconut's sweetness. The chocolate-to-coconut ratio varied by preference. Some liked barely held-together haystacks with maximum coconut and minimal chocolate, while others preferred chocolatey versions with coconut as accent, rather than star ingredient. The coconut never became soggy because the chocolate coating sealed it from moisture, keeping each strand distinct and pleasantly chewy even after days of storage. These traveled exceptionally well to potlucks and parties because their irregular shape meant they didn't need to look perfect. Any damage during transport just made them look more authentically rustic. This made them popular for scout troop projects and school fundraisers, where young candy makers participated in the preparation. 25 forgotten candies explored, 5 more to discover. From liquefying chocolate-covered cherries to rustic coconut haystacks, these recipes showcase the full range of no-bake candy artistry. Our grandmothers knew every technique from pulling taffy to tempering chocolate, all without formal training. Let's finish this sweet journey with the final 5 treasures. Cookie truffles emerged during the 1980s as the clever solution to broken cookies and leftover sandwich cookies, transforming would-be waste into luxurious confections that tasted like expensive chocolate truffles. These became instant sensations because they looked impressive, required minimal ingredients, and could be customized endlessly based on available cookies and personal preferences. The basic formula worked with any sandwich cookie: Oreos, Vienna fingers, Nutter Butters, or even homemade cookies that broke during baking. The cookies got crushed into fine crumbs using a food processor or the old-fashioned method of placing them in a sealed plastic bag and rolling with a rolling pin until pulverized. The resulting cookie crumbs mixed with softened cream cheese in roughly a 3-to-1 ratio, creating a thick, moldable dough that held together perfectly. The cream cheese served multiple purposes. It bound the cookie crumbs together, added richness and tang that complemented the cookie's sweetness, and provided moisture that created a truffle-like texture completely different from the original dry cookies. The mixture chilled for 30 minutes until firm enough to roll into uniform balls about the size of walnuts. Each ball could be left plain and rolled in cocoa powder, rolled in cookie crumbs for textural coating, or dipped completely in melted chocolate for ultimate indulgence. The cream cheese added subtle tanginess that prevented the truffles from being cloying despite their sweetness. These became go-to gifts for cookie exchange parties and holiday celebrations because they looked homemade yet professional, and the ingredient list could be kept secret if desired. Most people couldn't identify the cream cheese component or believe the base was simply crushed cookies. They stored well in the refrigerator for up to 2 weeks, actually improving slightly as flavors melded together over time. Peppermint patties brought refreshing mint flavor to homemade candy collections, creating smooth, creamy centers completely enrobed in dark chocolate. The centers started with sweetened condensed milk, mixed with powdered sugar and peppermint extract, stirred together until a thick, smooth paste formed. The ratio of condensed milk to powdered sugar determined the final texture. More sugar created firmer patties, while more condensed milk made them softer and creamier. Most grandmothers aimed for somewhere in the middle, creating centers that held their shape but melted smoothly on the tongue. The mixture rolled out between sheets of wax paper to about 1/4-inch thickness, then cut into circles using a small round cookie cutter or drinking glass. The cut centers transferred to wax paper-lined baking sheets and chilled until very firm, at least 2 hours or overnight for best results. This firming stage was crucial because soft centers would fall apart during the chocolate dipping process. The chocolate coating required melted chocolate chips or candy coating, kept at just the right temperature for smooth dipping. Too hot, and it would melt the centers. Too cool, and it would be too thick for thin, even coating. Each chilled peppermint center balanced on a dipping fork, submerged completely in chocolate. The contrast between cool peppermint centers and dark chocolate coating created that signature peppermint patty experience, biting through crisp chocolate to reveal smooth, intensely minty filling that dissolved almost instantly on the tongue. Many grandmothers made large batches and froze them, pulling out small quantities as needed for entertaining or personal treats. At 70 cents for 4 dozen patties, they delivered commercial candy quality at homemade prices, proving that professional tasting results required technique rather than expensive ingredients. Marshmallow Nut Rolls recreated the beloved Pearson's Salted Nut Roll candy bar at home, combining fluffy marshmallow nougat with caramel coating and crunchy salted peanuts for perfect sweet and salty balance. The nougat center started with marshmallows and butter melted together until smooth and completely combined, creating a fluffy base with enough structure to hold shape when rolled. Vanilla extract and salt stirred in provided flavor balance, while powdered sugar worked in gradually until the mixture achieved a consistency firm enough to shape but still soft and pliable. This marshmallow nougat had completely different texture from traditional egg white-based nougat, lighter, fluffier, and easier to bite through. The nougat rolled into logs about 1 inch in diameter, creating a fluffy base with enough structure to hold shape when rolled. Vanilla extract and salt stirred in provided flavor balance, while powdered sugar worked in gradually until the mixture achieved a consistency firm enough to shape but still soft and pliable. This marshmallow nougat had completely different texture from traditional egg white-based nougat, lighter, fluffier, and easier to bite through. The nougat rolled into logs about 1 inch in diameter and 4 inches long, then chilled until very firm. Meanwhile, caramel sauce prepared from unwrapped caramel candies, melted with a splash of milk, created the sticky coating that would hold the peanuts in place. Some grandmothers made caramel from scratch, but most used store-bought caramels for convenience and consistent results. Each nougat log rolled in the warm caramel until completely coated, then immediately rolled in salted peanuts that had been spread on wax paper. The peanuts pressed lightly into the caramel, sticking firmly and creating complete coverage around the log. The rolling motion needed to be quick because the caramel hardened as it cooled, and thorough coverage ensured every bite included nuts. After the caramel set completely, the logs sliced into individual pieces about 1 inch thick, revealing the cross-section of fluffy white nougat surrounded by golden caramel and studded with peanuts. Each piece looked like a miniature version of the commercial candy bar, with the same satisfying combination of textures: soft nougat, chewy caramel, and crunchy nuts. The sweet-salty combination made these impossible to stop eating. The marshmallow nougat provided pure sweetness, the caramel added buttery richness, and the salted peanuts delivered a savory crunch that kept taste buds engaged. This flavor profile would later be recognized as food science gold, but Midwestern grandmothers understood it instinctively decades before flavor chemists codified the sweet-salty principle. At 75 cents for a dozen individual rolls, they delivered candy bar quality at homemade prices, allowing families to enjoy what would have been expensive store-bought treats by making them at home with readily available ingredients and simple techniques that required no special equipment or advanced skills. Mint julep balls brought Kentucky Derby sophistication to homemade candy collections, combining bourbon and mint flavors in elegant confections that evoked the South's most famous cocktail in solid form. These adults-only treats became essential at Derby Day parties and Southern holiday gatherings throughout the 1960s and 70s, representing refined taste and regional pride in every boozy bite. The base started with vanilla wafer cookies crushed into fine crumbs, then mixed with powdered sugar, finely chopped pecans, and cocoa powder for subtle chocolate undertones that would complement rather than compete with the bourbon and mint. The dry ingredients combined thoroughly before the liquid components joined. Bourbon and corn syrup stirred together until the mixture achieved a consistency that held together when pressed, but wasn't sticky or wet. Peppermint extract added the crucial mint component that transformed these from simple bourbon balls into mint juleps, though the amount required careful measurement because peppermint extract's intensity could easily overwhelm the bourbon's subtle notes. The best versions achieved perfect balance where mint and bourbon flavors danced together rather than fighting for dominance. The mixture rolled into small balls about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Then each ball received a coating of powdered sugar that created elegant white exteriors reminiscent of fresh Kentucky Derby morning frost. Some grandmothers rolled them in finely crushed mint candies instead, doubling down on the mint flavor and creating sparkling, jewel-like coatings that caught the light beautifully. These required aging in airtight containers for at least 3 days before serving, allowing the bourbon to permeate throughout the crushed cookies and the flavors to meld into cohesive whole. Fresh-made versions tasted good, but lacked the depth and complexity that developed during aging as the alcohol broke down the cookie structure and married with the other flavors. The bourbon content meant these were decidedly adults only. They brought Southern elegance and grown-up sophistication to no-bake candy making, proving that regional cocktail culture could translate beautifully into solid form while maintaining the essential character that made mint juleps beloved throughout Kentucky and beyond. Cocoa Balls closed out this collection of forgotten candies with minimalist elegance, featuring just dates, nuts, and cocoa powder rolled into energy-packed spheres that straddled the line between candy and health food. These became popular during the 1970s natural food movement, when people sought alternatives to refined sugar while still satisfying sweet cravings with whole food ingredients. The preparation began by processing pitted dates in a food processor until they formed a sticky paste, their natural sugars breaking down and becoming the glue that would hold everything together. Almonds or walnuts joined the date paste, pulsed until finely chopped but not ground into powder. The goal was texture contrast, not smoothness. Unsweetened cocoa powder stirred in provided intense chocolate flavor without added sugar, while a pinch of salt enhanced all the flavors and prevented the dates from tasting cloying. The mixture came together into a thick, moldable dough that held its shape beautifully when pressed. Small portions rolled between palms created uniform balls about the size of large marbles, each one dense and substantial despite their small size. The balls then rolled in additional cocoa powder, creating a dark, dusty exterior that prevented sticking and added extra chocolate intensity. The flavor profile surprised first-time tasters who expected candy sweetness but found something more complex. The dates provided natural caramel-like sweetness without refined sugar's one-dimensional quality, while the nuts added buttery richness and protein that made these genuinely filling despite their small size. The cocoa powder contributed bittersweet chocolate notes that complemented rather than clashed with the date's sweetness. These stored exceptionally well at room temperature for weeks, actually improving slightly as the flavors melded together. The date's natural preservative properties prevented spoilage, while their moisture kept the nuts from becoming rancid. This made them perfect for hiking trips, lunch boxes, and keeping in desk drawers for afternoon energy slumps. Health-conscious grandmothers appreciated that these contained no refined sugar, no chocolate, and no artificial ingredients, just whole dates, nuts, and cocoa. Parents could feel good about children eating them, and athletes valued their quick-energy carbohydrates combined with protein and healthy fats from the nuts. The natural food movement would later recognize these as energy balls or bliss balls, but grandmothers simply called them cocoa balls and knew they satisfied sweet cravings while providing actual nutrition. At just 60 cents for 3 dozen balls, using affordable dates and nuts, they proved that healthy eating and budget consciousness could coexist beautifully, delivering sweetness and satisfaction without refined sugar or expensive specialty ingredients. These 30 forgotten candies represent more than just recipes. They're edible memories of an era when homemade meant something special, when grandmothers transformed humble ingredients into treasures without ovens or fancy equipment. From Depression-era potato candy to bourbon-spiked sophistication, each recipe solved problems with creativity rather than expensive solutions. Today, these techniques have nearly vanished, replaced by store-bought convenience and complicated modern baking. But the magic remains in these simple formulas, waiting for anyone willing to try them. Pick one recipe, gather your ingredients, and rediscover what your grandmother knew. The best candies require patience, not privilege. Which forgotten treasure will you revive first?